from the very beginning, diversity has been incorporated into the foundation and has just been part of the evolution of who we are.
In the beginning, it was Mr. Noyes' decision to do it, and he just thought it was the right thing to do, is to make half his grants go to non-white students. And then, as we evolved over the years, we then, I think, became more deliberate about our internal operation,
Yes.
thinking more about our board and our staff. And that probably came around the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And then we became more intentional about it at that point. I think institutionally, both the board and the staff, we're just committed to this. When you take this journey, and it is a journey, there's going to be mistakes you make, there are going to be bumps in the road, there's going to be a lot of things that you feel really good about because it's hard work, and you commit to doing it, and you be very deliberate about it. But we do it as a partnership, and what we've learned is that once you make the commitment and once you do it, it becomes part of you. It's part of this institution. It's hard to separate. It's almost hard to have this conversation because it's almost like what we do. I mean, here we are, two white people talking about this. But I think we've talked about it enough where we're very comfortable talking about it because it's just part of what we believe and part of the value system of an organization. If the organization could have sort of a soul, this would be part of it.
Having this way of looking at the world, and as Vic said, it's built in now, so it seems almost artificial to be talking about it, is something that makes the foundation effective in today's world.
And I would say to foundations who are thinking about this issue is not to be afraid. It is hard work. It does take a commitment, but it is very rewarding. Individually, because you learn a lot, and I think you become a better grant maker, but institutionally too, because I think your organization continues to stay relevant as the world changes, and you make better grants, I think. I think the one thing we try to do, we talk a lot about this. We try not to preach. We try to be clear that we think this is the way to go. We think it's the right thing. We think it makes good business sense. But we don't want to be preachy. What we'd rather is to be more conversational. We want to have this conversation with people. We want to share what we know. We want to share what we don't know. What we're still trying to figure out is there's stuff that we're learning all the time. So we want to have the conversation with folks, and we don't want them to feel embarrassed or ashamed or afraid or opposed. We just want them to open their mind and have this conversation, and we're willing to do it with them. And I think that's the message that we're willing to share this with you. To hold foundations up to a higher standard than society is probably a little difficult to do. I mean, we don't talk about it in society. We live different worlds for the most part. You know, the segregation that exists. I think what you have to do is at least have some leaders, thought leaders in your institution that are going to say, let's try this. And it's an organizing campaign. You're not going to wave a magic wand and make people feel comfortable about talking about race. But you could at least give people models, give people tools so that they can begin that conversation. It's going to be difficult. It's always difficult. And particularly for white people of privilege, it's difficult to think about all kinds of things. You know, when Ann was talking about white men traditionally have the power, you know, in foundation world, white men have the power. So if you're talking about breaking that down, or at least changing those dynamics, well, you're affecting the white men who are in charge. So there's a little bit of a threat there. There's an embarrassment there because they're not sure how they should react. But I guess the message I would convey to other white people is that we have to be an ally here. This is not just an issue for the communities of color. This is an issue for all of us to talk about race and talk about an equitable society and social justice. white people have a role in that too. So we can't just be on the sidelines watching. And sometimes we can't be the leaders, but we can certainly be part of the process of having that conversation. So that's how I come at it. And because I think some people do wonder sometimes where I get off talking about this. But I believe in social justice, and I believe in having an equitable society. So I'm either going to talk to myself or talk to somebody else. And I prefer talking to somebody else about this and trying to be part of the process of solution.
When it's framed as what we want is an equitable society, that's a way of starting the conversation. So how do we make what we have more equitable?